Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today's video, I wanted to do something a little different from gaming and some of the other stuff. With May the 4th coming up, which is Star Wars Day, for anyone that didn't know. And something that I wanted to do that I haven't done yet is that I wanted to rank all the movies in order from what I thought was the best to the least. And I haven't actually done that ever before. I mean, I have just with, like, I guess, family and stuff like that. Like, me and my brothers have talked about it. But, yeah, I wanted to make a video, especially since May the 4th is coming up here soon. I keep saying May the 4th. May 4th, May the 4th be with you, whatever. Yeah, and I wanted to get into it. There is technically 11 videos. We got the Skywalker Saga, which is, 1 through 9, and then you have Rogue One and Solo, so that makes 11. Not counting the TV shows or anything. We'll probably do that in a different video, but for now we are just doing the movies. So without further ado, we're going to start from my least favorite movie to my most favorite movie. Now, bear in mind, I do actually love all of these movies. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. Even the one that's the least, I still really like. There's just things that I liked better, or things that I didn't quite like in certain areas, stuff like that. So I'm not saying that these movies are bad. Some people might think they're bad. But yeah, without further ado, my last pick, or my number 11 spot, was actually Solo. Solo, I actually did enjoy Solo. It was good. I just kind of felt like Solo was the movie that no one really asked for, but we got. Like, there's a ton of other characters that I would have definitely wanted to see more of their background on, opposed to Han Solo. I mean, it was a cool, fun story. Definitely the favorite part was the ending. I won't spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen these movies yet. I highly encourage you to go watch them. I know there's tons of people out there that have never seen a Star Wars movie. Please go watch all of them. They're awesome. But yeah, not a whole lot to say with this one. It's just Solo just wasn't one that really drew me in. I watched it in theaters, and I've seen it a few times afterwards, but I haven't actually rewatched this one in a while. So that's Solo. It's in my number 11 spot. And before I keep going into my other numbers here, please comment and let me know what your guys' favorite order of the Star Wars movies are. I'd love to hear what your favorites are, what your least favorites are. Yeah, so go ahead and drop a comment and let me know what order you would put these movies in. In my number 10 spot, I chose Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. I don't know, the prequels, I know they get a lot of hate, but I actually love the prequels. I love all of these movies, like I said earlier. The prequels are the movies that I grew up on. It's the age that I was. Now, I never actually... So this came out in 1999, I believe, and it's actually my earliest childhood memory. I remember my family going to Pizza Hut, and at Pizza Hut, I got a little, like, Yoda Magic 8-Ball, where it was Yoda sitting on a chair, and you'd flip him over, and it'd have, like, little, like what a Magic 8-Ball has in it. And I remember we had went to Pizza Hut before we were going to go see the movie. I was like 4 years old at the time. Now, I don't remember seeing the movie at all. I'm sure as a kid I probably just fell asleep. But for some reason, that is the only thing I remember, is that I do remember we were going to go see the movie, because I do remember going to the movie theater, but I don't remember anything about it. So that's my earliest childhood memory. 4 years old, I do remember getting it. But things that I liked about this movie was pretty much the end. The fight between Darth Maul, Obi-Wan, and Qui-Gon was freaking awesome. One of the best fights in the entire series of Star Wars. It is freaking awesome. The only thing that gets it so low on my list is that the whole first half of the movie, as I'm older now, I don't enjoy as much as the other ones. Jar Jar's awesome. I think he's funny. I don't know, but just all the before stuff isn't as interesting. I mean, I love the movie still, but isn't as interesting as some of these other movies I got over here, except for the end. And that's really what I like the most about it, was just the end fight between those three guys there. So my number 9 spot is actually, I drew a blank for a second, Return of the Jedi. Now, Return of the Jedi was still a really good movie. I just was not a fan of like the Ewoks at all. I just found it kind of crazy that like the stormtroopers here were supposed to be like these big bad guys, and then they just kind of get destroyed by a bunch of teddy bears. Now, and some of my brothers may know this, so when we were younger, my uncle had told us that he was actually one of the Ewoks in episode 6, that he got to be one of the kids, that, and he told us like a bunch of kids. Now bear in mind, I'm a little kid when he's telling us this, and he told us that he got to be in the movie and that he was the Ewok with a feather, and me and my brothers totally believed him. And I remember going to school and telling all my friends, like, yeah, I'm cool, like my uncle, he was totally in Star Wars. He's in, episode 6, he was the Ewok with the hair in his feather. Been said that like my whole childhood. And then as I get a little bit older, I remember me and my brothers were talking to him about it, and he had totally just BS'd us. He was just joking the whole time. So here now I feel like I look like a fool because I just told all my friends that my uncle was in episode 6 when in fact he wasn't. The end of it where Luke, Darth Vader, and the Emperor was awesome. I love that scene. Just wasn't a big fan of the Ewoks and stuff like that. So that's kind of where I decided to put it. Come here. Come here. You want to be in the videos? Yeah. Okay, so what's our number 8? Our number 8 on the list is Attack of the Clones. So, well, actually, 8 and 7, I kind of can flip-flop because there's things that I like. Here, go play. There's things that I liked. I don't know. I'll just leave this one at number 8. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I actually had a really hard time putting these in order. Like my first 3 movies, my top 3 favorite were pretty easy, and then my least favorite ones were pretty easy, like Solo and stuff. But all these ones that are kind of in the middle, like they're just. It was very difficult for me to try to put one above the other. Oh yeah? Switch them around. But I put Attack of the Clones at our, number 8 spot. Yeah? You think it should be at number 8 too? I actually, Attack of the Clones, I remember this movie a lot. Hi, BB. And yeah, the end scenes were good. I really liked the fights with Dooku. Super cool. So, at our number 7 spot, so this one is controversial. So at number 7, I put The Last Jedi at 7. Now, Last Jedi was, it's very weird for me because The Last Jedi had some of my favorite scenes in all of Star Wars, but it also has my least favorite scenes in all of Star Wars. That's impossible! At the same time, it's like a love-hate with this one. I didn't feel like it should be the last one, which I know a lot of people would probably put this one either at the bottom of the list or the top of the list. So I know some people, I've seen a lot of people say that this was their absolute favorite Star Wars movie, and I've seen lots of my friends say that this is their least favorite Star Wars movie. Now, I put it right in the middle because I did enjoy it for the most part, but there were definitely things that made me like, were kind of cringy. Now, we'll go with the things I didn't like about it first. That way we end on a happy note. Things I didn't like about it, like Luke's story and this kind of isolated himself. I mean, it's alright. I just did the way we ended it in episode 6. Luke was on a high note and he was doing great. Even in the Battlefront 2 game, there's a a level where you play as Luke Skywalker and he's hunting around for, you know, items, Sith items or Jedi items, stuff like that. I can't remember exactly the level, but and then you find him. So maybe in the future we'll find like an in between, like why. I mean, I know Ben went evil, but I don't know. I just didn't really like the whole how they treated Luke Skywalker in this movie. I really wanted Luke Skywalker to maybe not come back as like how he was in Episode 6, but he was just kind of a cranky old like hermit in Episode 8. A few things like there's a casino scene. I literally feel like you could just chop that whole scene out of the movie and you wouldn't miss anything. Another thing is, and this is no hate on the actors or anything because they're just doing what they're paid to do. I think all the acting was good. I just particularly didn't like, I think her name's Rose Tico. I did not really like her character at all in this movie. I actually found her character specifically to be quite annoying. Yeah, and I just felt like this movie, there was a lot of points where you thought something great was going to happen, like the build-up was getting, and you're like, oh, this is going to be great. And then it's like, it flips on you, and it's like, nope, we're not doing that. Another thing that I didn't quite like was Leia, Mary Poppins, looking like Mary Poppins through the sky, or the space. I'm totally cool with Leia knowing how to use the Force because there's games where she's used the Force. We know that he teaches her how to use the Force. Luke does. I just think the delivery of how we finally got to see her use it was pretty stupid. I thought it was stupid. You could love it if you like. That's totally okay. I'm not saying that you're stupid for liking it. I just particularly did not like it. They could have shown vastly other things to show Leia and her Force abilities and how she uses the Force without making her look like Mary Poppins. Some of the things that I did love. First thing is I really did love the scene between Luke and Yoda. I thought that was awesome. I really, really liked that scene. I thought it was cool that they brought back the puppet for Yoda and that they did, instead of doing CGI, I really liked that they had puppet Yoda. I thought that was cool. Another scene I thought was really awesome was the throne room scene. But overall, I thought the throne room fight scene was pretty awesome. The whole scene, from killing Snoke to everything, I thought it was pretty awesome. It was pretty epic. The part where Holdo shoots the ship through hyperspace and hits all the ships, but I thought the visual of how it looked and when it got all silent and it just goes through the ships, I thought was pretty awesome. Yeah, so a love-hate relationship with this movie. I put it at number 7. Now at number 6, I chose The Force Awakens. I remember seeing the commercial for it, and it had been a long time since Star Wars had made any sort of movies. And the teasers, oh my goodness, the teasers got me so hyped for this. Actually, The Last Jedi's teasers were probably the best commercials out of all the Star Wars movies. Kylo Ren. So Kylo Ren in all this movie and the Rise of Skywalker, all super. Kylo Ren is a beast. He was probably the best character out of all 3 of those movies. He was awesome. The acting, Adam Driver did a great job. I just thought that it was cool. I loved the idea of a stormtrooper defecting away. I thought that was really awesome. Really cool. It was cool to see Finn pick up the lightsaber and wield it, even though he had no idea how to actually use it. And he was just technically like a maintenance stormtrooper. So my number 5 choice was A New Hope, the one that started it all. I just love this movie. It's such a good movie, such a great start. Darth Vader, definitely one of my most favorite characters. Things I liked about it, I really liked Obi-Wan and Darth Vader. So I couldn't think of his name for a second. I'm like looking right at him. Their fight together, I thought that was really cool. It's such a good movie. I love it. I did put it higher than The Force Awakens. And the only reason is that I put it higher than The Force Awakens because I do like The Force Awakens a lot, and I do like A New Hope a lot. So they were kind of like, that was one that I didn't know which one to put over which. And I decided that I thought I liked A New Hope a little bit better because The Force Awakens does take some themes from A New Hope. So, and that was my number 5 spot. So now we are in that officially in the top 5 now. So my number 4 spot was Rise of Skywalker. And these are all the DVDs, obviously, as you know. I like buying the DVDs, collect them. Rise of Skywalker, I thought was really great. I loved it. I thought it was much better than the first two. So we're getting some things that I didn't like about it and some things that I loved about it. So things I didn't like about it, first things first, I thought that the movie actually went kind of fast. And I know that's what a lot of other people said, that it just kind of seems like we are here one moment and then we're here, and it just kind of jumps really fast. And I did see it like 3 or 4 times in the theaters because I felt like I was missing so much because it was just jumping so much. And I did. There were still lots of things that I missed. Another thing that I didn't like about it as much, they make Rey like uber powerful. I don't know. You got Kylo Ren, who's already been trained in the light side at first, because he was trained when he was young, and then obviously by Snoke when he gets older. And then Rey just comes by, and yes, he did get shot in the side with a blaster bolt, which maybe that's why she won. But even in the throne room scene, when they're both forcing the lightsaber, like, Kylo Ren should have just been able to just rip it from her, because she has, at this point, still no training, because when she was being trained by Luke only was giving her 3 lessons, and if you watch the movie, they didn't even do all 3 lessons. They did 2. One's a deleted scene, so technically you didn't even see it till the DVD came out. Kylo Ren should have been able to just rip that lightsaber from her. I don't know. I just kind of felt like they just made her too powerful without any good explanation. And I guess in this movie they just say that she's a Palpatine, which I guess is an explanation, I guess. But, even Anakin and some of the other people that are pretty powerful, they still had to have training. Like, Yoda is extremely powerful. Even the flippin' Emperor, Darth Sidious, is powerful, but he didn't just get there just because, I'm a Sidious or I'm a Palpatine. It's like he had training. So that was my big issue with that. And then I didn't like the end. I particularly didn't like, I thought it sounded really cheesy when she said her name was Rey Skywalker.
No, don't like that.
The movie's called The Rise of Skywalker, and she's not really a Skywalker. I mean, I guess they're talking about, it could be Kylo Ren, redeeming himself, but I didn't like that very much. But those are really the only thing I didn't like. The fight scenes were awesome. Kylo Ren and Rey fighting was pretty dang awesome as well. I do like, one of my favorite scenes in this whole movie was actually the scene where right after Rey and Kylo Ren fight it out on the Death Star wreckage and Rey leaves, that Kylo Ren is sitting there and he has like a vision. It's of Han Solo. He's not a Force ghost, but he's like a memory, I think, or something like that. And that whole dialogue between the two was awesome. I loved it so much. That was probably my favorite scene in the whole movie. And then the fight scenes at the end were pretty awesome. The Emperor, the shooting the lightning in the sky, was freaking awesome. So good. Another small issue that I had is that I felt like the Emperor got beat fairly fast again. And he just doesn't seem to learn from using the Force lightning that he needs to stop shooting Force lightning. I just kind of felt like he died he was beaten fairly fast. And I think it would have been cooler if Rey and Kylo Ren fought him together instead of just throwing Kylo down a hole and then Rey comes and then just pulls out 2 lightsabers and somehow is more powerful. I mean, I know we heard all the Force ghosts come in I think, give her powers or something. I'm not 100% sure on that. But another thing I thought would have been cooler is actually show the Force ghosts around them. Like, they paid them to, like, all these other actors to voice act in it. I mean, I don't know if they get paid less for a voice act instead of their face, but I mean, like, Hayden Christensen's technically credited in the movie, but you never see him. He's just a voice. Thought it would have been way cool to see all the Force ghosts around her, and I think most people agree with that. I thought it was kind of crazy that Kylo Ren died, or Ben Solo died. I had a feeling that he was going to die, even from, like, the beginning. I'm like, okay, this is, like, going to be the last trilogy. Like, Kylo Ren's probably going to die. But I didn't think that Rey was going to die, and then he was going to Force heal her and basically drain all his energy, kind of like Luke did in Episode 8, where he used all his energy to project himself, except for he used all his energy to heal Rey, because Rey was dead. I think it would have been cooler if Kylo Ren killed Palpatine instead of Rey. I think that would have been a much more fitting ending, as the movie's called Rise of Skywalker, and technically Kylo Ren is a Skywalker. His mom, Leia, was Darth Vader's daughter, so... but overall, I was pretty satisfied with this movie. Now, these are my top 3 movies of the entire one, and you guys can probably already guess which ones they're going to be. Actually, I would say my top 2 will flip-flop a lot, but these ones have always been my top 3, and they kind of flip-flop a little bit within themselves as well. I'm putting Rogue One at number 3. Rogue One, man, I thought was basically perfect. There's like, I honestly can't even think of anything that I really just dislike about this movie. I think that this whole movie was done really well. It is set between episode 3 and 4. Yeah, there we go, 3 and 4. Just totally drawing a blank. I was like, what was this between again? Yeah, because this is the creation of the Death Star. This movie's so good. The ending that Darth Vader comes in at the very end, like, because you see him in the middle of the movie sometime. One of this guy right here goes and talks to him, and Darth Vader kind of like force chokes him a little bit. And that's all you really saw. I was hoping to see more. But then at the end, holy cow, they totally delivered. At the end where Darth Vader shows up and just starts destroying all the rebels. Such a good scene. Definitely one of my most favorite scenes in all of Star Wars. Like, I loved that scene so much. Acting was great. I really like Mads Mikkelsen as the guy that created the Death Star. I think he's a great actor. The main character, Jen Erso, was also, well, that's her name in the movie. I don't actually know her name in real life. Anyways, she was great acting by all the lead guys here. Everyone was great. There's nothing really that I didn't particularly like about it. Like, the droid was great. Visuals were great. Whole movie was awesome. Lots of moments where I was at the edge of my seat. I saw this so many times in theaters. But this movie is like near perfect for a Star Wars film. So good. I loved it so much. And then my number 2 spot, I chose The Empire Strikes Back. My goodness, what a great movie. But I love this movie. I loved the fight between, Darth Vader and Luke at the end, where he chops his hand off. And then obviously there's the famous line that's in there where Darth Vader reveals that he is Luke's father on Cloud City. That's where we get to see a little bit more of Boba Fett for Boba Fett fans. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of Boba Fett, but I can see why people love him. And then we see Yoda, or not Yoda. Well, I mean, we do get to see Yoda, but we see Luke go to Dagobah to train with Yoda. So that's our first actual time that we get to meet Yoda. I don't know. There's a lot of good stuff about this movie. I loved it a lot. Darth Vader, Darth Vader is just my favorite character. He's so awesome. But definitely, like, I loved that scene where they're fighting in Cloud City. It's probably the best scene in almost all of Star Wars. I loved it so much. Things I didn't necessarily like about it. I don't actually know. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. It's a great movie. That's my number 2, Empire Strikes Back. So, like I said, Empire Strikes Back and my number 1 movie, and even Rogue One, they kind of flip around a lot. But not so much Rogue One. Rogue One's been a solid 3 out of the 11 for all those. Right, and last but definitely not least, at least in my opinion, my number 1 favorite movie out of all the Star Wars movies that have come out was definitely Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Now, I know a ton of people do not like the prequels, and they hate on them for some reason, but I gotta say, it's one of my favorite. These are the prequels are what I grew up with. Yeah, I watched the original trilogy, of course, but when I was a young boy, growing up watching these movies, these were the ones that were in the theaters. These are the ones that I went to go see. These are the ones that I had the toys of. I had the action figures. So it impacted my childhood much, much more than the original trilogy. Now, I do love the original trilogy. Obviously, Empire Strikes Back is my number 2/number 1 favorite. But Episode 3, I just loved it so much. There were so many parts that I absolutely loved. Yeah, there's some dialogue in there that's not quite the best. I totally see that now as I'm older. But basically, the movie from like start to finish, I just love it. I love the opening scene where they're flying in to General Grievous' ship, and then the whole fight between Anakin. He will be Darth Vader, and Count Dooku was awesome. I loved it. Basically, all the action scenes, fight scenes were just great. Like even Obi-Wan versus General Grievous, I thought it was awesome. At the end, you got Yoda versus Darth Sidious, and that was such a great fight. And then my absolute favorite, which I don't care what anybody else says, Anakin versus Obi-Wan is the best lightsaber fight we have ever seen in Star Wars. And I was really, really hoping that the sequels would try to do something on that scale, but it just never happened. It was never there. I'm a big fan of lightsaber fights. That is like out of all the movies, and maybe that's why Solo is so low. Why Solo is so low is because there's no lightsaber fights. I mean, there's blasters, and it's still Star Wars and a lot of Star Wars things, but I love the lightsaber fights. Those are my favorite, and they will continue to be my favorite forever. I just love them so much, and that fight between Anakin and Obi-Wan was so good. The choreography, I don't even know. The choreograph was great. I don't even know how to talk right now. The fight between Anakin and Obi-Wan, was very well done, and it had a lot of tension to it too, because these were two guys that loved each other. They were brothers, basically, is Anakin and Obi-Wan, which was his mentor, his master, his father figure. And here they are, Anakin's evil now, and they're fighting each other, and it's so sad. The end where Obi-Wan bests Anakin because Anakin is ignorant. That's so touching when he's yelling at him at the lava when he's burning up and telling him he was supposed to be the chosen one. Gets me in the feels, man. I just loved it so much. There's so many good things that I loved about this movie. I really loved, and this is kind of the pivotal point. I know this is the Skywalker saga, but honestly, 1 through 6 was the story of Anakin, from being a boy to Episode 3 is where he becomes Darth Vader. So up until this point, when this movie was coming out, we had Anakin as a young boy, but then a lot of people knew that Anakin was Darth Vader from the original trilogy. We find that out, and so it's this movie was the hinge point where everything changed, because when you see in Episode 4, the Empire's in rule, you got the Emperor, the Death Star, And then in episode 2, you don't have any of that. So this moment, I mean, granted, there's a lot of like stuff in between 3 and 4 as well that they cover in TV shows and whatnot. But this was like the pivotal moment. It was super cool to see Hayden Christensen put on the Darth Vader suit. I just love this movie so much. And that's why I think, like I said, it flip-flops between Empire Strikes Back. But I feel like for the most part, I always put Revenge of the Sith at the top. I know that definitely won't be a lot of other people's thoughts about this movie. That's just my opinion. You guys go ahead and drop your comments. Tell me what you guys would put, the order that you guys would put these movies in. I'd love to hear what you guys say. My favorite movie is Revenge of the Sith. Top favorite Star Wars movie as of right now. I want to say of all time. As of right now, who knows? They might make some more. They said that Rise of Skywalker was the end, but I kind of felt like they left it at a sequel. And that's also what I was saying. Is like 1 through 6 is about Anakin, and I feel like 7 through 9 were just, who knows? I would say Palpatine, but Palpatine's not in the first 2, and I guess he kind of is in the third one when you say like, oh, he's connected to everything. But I don't know. 1 through 6 at least were fluid with the story, and then 7 through 9 is just like blah blah blah. So yeah, like I said, drop a comment. Tell me what you guys think. What order would you guys put these movies in? And yeah, May 4th is coming up. May the 4th be with you, and we'll see you next time.